It's okay not to be okay.
So, I was experiencing severe anxiety. I didn't know it was anxiety though, and I didn't know how deep anxiety ran, like in your mind and just thoughts and how your body reacts to the anxiety. And so, it started off as just a little pressure in my chest, and then it like months later, it advanced to a full-blown panic attack, which I had never experienced in my life, and it was one of the most terrifying things I think I've ever experienced.
I think I dealt with a lot of just sadness, lack of energy, and even just pain for no reason. Just couldn't figure out where the pain was coming from. I never knew that it was all tied together, that depression and just having your mind is messed up. It's just so exhausting, just mentally, physically, everything. So just tears, crying, did a lot of that. Didn't want to be around people. I would shut myself off in my room, go to work, come home, and just be in my room in the bed for the rest of the day.
Aggression, being very resistant to just listening to what people had to say or give me advice. I was just like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to hear that. Sleep was a big one. Was a very big one. Changing appetite. Noticing that when I was in certain places, I would get, I kind of have an anxiety attack, or I would feel so overwhelmed by my thoughts that I couldn't think. I couldn't focus. I would just focus on this one thing all the time. So I was like, yeah, girl, you gotta do something about this, because that's not right.
I remember having these really intense, emotional outbursts. In a sense that I would start crying for no reason when I would watch certain things, but then it started happening randomly, just at any given point. But the whole low mood, not having energy, always fatigued. Things like working out, writing poetry, that daily reflection and meditation, spending time with God, those things got pushed to the side.
The symptoms I experienced started very young. Started with sadness, started with feeling isolated in a home that was full of supposed to be love, that grew into anger, that grew into resistance, that grew into feelings of rejection and needing to be loved. And over years, it grew into just a feeling of emptiness, and it just didn't feel right.
I started drinking at a rate that was unbelievable. So I would wake up every morning, and from being a 2 to 3 year binge drinker, functional alcoholic, you have to keep in mind that whatever I could get my hands onto to let me escape from my reality was the case. I could not drive anywhere sober. When I'm having conversations, even when I'm flirting with somebody, I had to be drunk, because this beautiful place that was different from being sober gave me the satisfaction that, at least in my mind, I can escape to a false reality that didn't include how other people felt about me. I would wake up every morning not understanding why I didn't want to commit suicide, but if I could take a 5-month nap, it would really help me.
Pursued a relationship after I got married at about 20, and I got divorced at 24. Me and him was in a relationship for 6 years, but after that relationship, I decided to pursue a relationship with an older man, and just trying to communicate with him was horrible. He would tell me stuff, and I would get real defensive, have that angry black woman thing going on. And so he was like, why are you just so combative with me all the time? And so I was like, I don't know. I love you and I want to be with you, but I don't want to hear nothing you got to say to me. So at that point, I was like, man, I need to deal with some inner stuff that I had going on, just related to like my childhood, my dad, my marriage. And so, yeah, those are the things that led to therapy.
I had reached a place in my life where everything that I was running away from, nothing could help me hide. Nothing. So that's when I knew I needed to seek help outside of me, outside these biblical resources that came with the culture of church, but not the truth about who God really is. And so that's when I knew I needed to seek help.
And I knew that my hair falling out, just the crying all the time and not being happy with anything, I needed help. I knew I needed help at that time. And so I sought out a therapist.
I knew I needed help when the void that I was feeling wouldn't go away. So it started with, of course, the doctors telling me I needed help. Oh yeah, something's off. We see the sadness, we see some of the behaviors. But again, for me, it was when I realized that things weren't going well. That situations and circumstances in whether it be work, whether it be love, whether it be friendships, I just felt an emptiness. I felt a void that just wasn't being completed. And so I knew something had to change.
And it was in 2015 when I started actually working in the field on the job, where I started experiencing the feelings of worthlessness, difficulty concentrating. I had a lot of work avoiding behaviors that I started noticing. So in my first year on the job as a school psychologist, I was pretty much like putting all of my time into that job to try to like silence out the inner voices that was going on, try to numb the pain, so to speak. And I can remember my boss warning me, like at the pace at which I was performing, that burnout would come quicker than normal. Going into my third year, I had a number of deaths in my family. One of them was a cousin who was my age. And as a school psychologist, one of my jobs is to provide crisis response. So at the very beginning of my third year, there was a death. One of the teachers at the high school that I worked, which is the school that I always had in the district. And I knew this teacher personally, but I was in no state. Like I was breaking down as I was trying to be of support to these students and these teachers. And so that's when I knew, like, you gotta do something about this.
I wasn't fully present. Like, I would be in conversations, but my mind would be racing about what other people were thinking and if they could see that I was nervous or if they could tell like I had these other things going on. So it was weird because I kept putting myself in social situations and it would just get worse and worse and worse. Until one day I was at my house and I had the panic attack. My friends were coming over. We were about to go to a graduation party. And I remember thinking that this one particular group of people was going to be there, and it completely revved me up. We're talking about pacing back and forth in my house, not being able to breathe, not being able to think straight. It was just all the way bad. Like, it was all the way bad. My throat closing up, like I said, my mind was racing, and so I knew it was a problem.
At first, being in a Black family, going to therapy was taboo, and I was almost skeptical about doing it because I didn't want my family to look at me differently, and just, kind of throw me off to the side. So I had a lot of reservations about seeking out therapy and also what type of therapist I needed. So I had to start with my primary care doctor and just kind of let him know what was going on so that I could be referred somewhere. I did a lot of talking with pastors and, people from the church and stuff like that.
Because I am a social worker by profession, very hesitant to go to therapy because, of course, like I know about like confidentiality and things like that, but I was like, what if this therapist like say I'm crazy, and then she tell my job that I'm crazy, and then I can't get a social work license, and I can't, I saw it as a barrier to like pursuing my dreams. Like I was like, if I have a meltdown in her office, or have like a homicidal or suicidal thought, she gonna tell my job, or just different stuff like that. So I was like overthinking it. As far as the medication portion, I have been diagnosed with general anxiety, and so I do take medication for that. Very hesitant about that as well because my father was a substance abuse user, and so I was just like, I'm gonna take this medicine and I'm getting addicted to these drugs, and then my whole world gonna be messed up. And so me and my doctor went over several different types of medications, like the side effects. She was like, read about them, research them, and then we could come back to this. And so I did, and then we eventually picked a medication that I feel comfortable with, which, to be honest, I'm not addicted to. So that's a good thing.
My initial thoughts about therapy was, wah, wah, wah. I felt like the Charlie Brown teacher. Her mouth was just moving, and I wasn't hearing anything that came out of it. Medication wasn't brought into the picture, though, until after my brother was murdered at the age of 22. And actually, I was 23. And I just could not get over the hump and the loss of not just him, but my grandmother 3 months prior to him, who was my best friend. And so the doctors at that time, of course, introduced medication. But again, I was a person that was like, no, this is not for black folks. That's what you white folks have been accustomed to doing. And so for me, medication I was opposed to it until I began taking it and realizing that it was some benefit to taking it.
And my initial reservations about medication altogether was, just hearing the stories about people getting addicted to certain kinds of medications, but not really knowing, the specifics of those stories and that sort of thing. There was just a lot of like misinformation, things that were just misconstrued in my head in terms of how I was viewing a lot of these things. And a lot of it was ignorance, like a lack of knowledge.
For one, being the fact that my mom always taught me about who Christ was, and with her pushing Christianity on me, I didn't really understand the full magnitude of it. Then when I did transition into going to church even more, this whole Pentecostal position of if you're going to a therapist or if you're seeking counseling, then that's of the devil. Then you all you need is Jesus. All you need is Jesus. And that's all they clapped. And they clapped, all you need is Jesus. And every clap that they gave me pushed me more and more into this false theory that Jesus himself wouldn't acknowledge how good listening to somebody could actually help.
Well, I can remember wanting to go to therapy as a child. I recognized that I wanted to then, but I knew growing up that wouldn't be something that was going to happen. What's interesting is I never asked, but I just knew we weren't going. And what I know now as an adult is that whole mantra, especially in the black community, about we keep our business in this house. And so I've heard that. I think that might be why I knew we weren't going to go, because I had heard that time and time again. I think that was just this innate hesitation to go or to even speak up or say that I wanted to go.
I ended up visiting his office just to see what was going to happen. Come to find out, he had a sliding scale, and his business office manager negotiates with my insurance to give me a discounted fee. So it worked out perfectly. So I seen him in August of 2018. Mind you, I had just, in dealing with my emotional mess, as I called it at that time, I cut my locks. I had my locks 13 years and I cut them completely off because I felt like maybe it's something I'm carrying in my hair. Like I need to just release it. Thinking I was gonna feel lighter after I cut them. No, I think I kept my locks off about 10 months. And I was supposed to donate them, but I kept them. The reason why I kept them, I don't know. I didn't know why I kept them at the time. But it really showed me that the hair wasn't the source of everything. There were emotional wounds there that needed to be tended to.
Was just being allowed to decompress and get everything that was in me that was hurting me, making me happy, making me sad, making me cry, getting it all out. She would allow me to actually go over my allotted time because she knew that I had a lot built up in me and I needed to get it out. So.
The positive experience was really my therapist. Like, she was the best. It was different from what I thought it was gonna be. I thought she was gonna give me like this list of things to do that was just gonna cure me. But what she really did was we really unpacked a lot of thought processes and why I was thinking the way I was thinking and what certain things meant to me and what triggers looked like. So it completely reframed how I saw the world and how I saw myself, because it was more about like, okay, are you tripping or not? Like, is this really a thing, or are you creating this thing in your mind right now? And a lot of it was created, especially when we talk about the social anxiety and thinking about what other people are thinking. I would put thoughts in their head that I thought they were thinking, which is crazy when you really think about it, right? So she really helped me unpack a lot of that, and that was the best thing, because it was never directives. It was always, if I had any homework, it was always just think about how you're thinking, and is this actually reality?
It's so funny because initially when I started therapy, I was definitely guarded. Because again, as an African American, we were raised to what happens in this house stays in this house. You don't talk about what goes on. And so initially I would only allow the therapist in so much. But I can say now, the therapist that I've had him for about 5 years now, and I love him to death. And it's so funny because even still now, there's things that still come up 5 years later. He's like, oh, you didn't tell me about that. So I mean, I've talked about everything from my emotions, from my feelings, from currently now race in America. I've talked about employment. I've even talked about sex, what works, what doesn't work. I'm a human being, and so I've been able to talk about my biases, what I know may sometimes stand in the way of my way of thinking. So there's nothing that I don't talk about with my therapist, because my mindset is therapy is my safe space. It is a non-judgmental 4 walls that I go in there and I offload, I unload, and my hope is that, and oftentimes I walk away with a different experience, a different outlook on life. And so it's been phenomenal. There's nothing that I don't talk about with my therapist.
I would say if you're wondering, then you probably it's for you. If you got to think about it, then you might want to explore it. And there are a lot of different resources. You can find a lot of different type of therapists. That's the beautiful thing. Because I know, especially so, I'm a Christian. I'm a follower of Christ, and I know a lot of Christians, well, back in the day, didn't really want to go to therapy because it almost felt like a betrayal to God, because we were to cast all our cares on Him. And I actually had a friend who just posted something similar on Facebook where she was excited to go, but she had to work through that, am I betraying God? And I think the beautiful thing about therapy is you can find like Christian-based therapists that can give you scripture and give you practical things that you can do. So I think, again, if you're thinking about it, if you're considering if it's for you, you should probably try to explore that.
I would tell them to go, if you're truly ready for it, go 100%. You know, try everything. You know, one thing that may work for somebody else may not work for you, or vice versa. So, and there are always medications out there that can be changed up. There's always other therapists out there that you can see. I mean, there's so many through the church, through, you know, big personal businesses or private businesses, whatever. I would just tell anybody that is seeking therapy or need therapy to put your all into it so that you can actually benefit, be fixed. You may have to block out all the outside noise and just do what's best for you. That includes family, that includes best friends, that includes that's everybody, you know. You have to fix you so that you can be 100% for them. So just do what you have to do. Go all in, take your medications, go to your therapist, call your therapist. I mean, do whatever it is that you need to do so that you can be the best you can be.
Do it. That'll be my advice. Do it. I mean, the worst thing that you could lose is I mean, if you don't like it or you feel like that therapist isn't for you, you can say, well, I don't like that. I don't like her, or she not meeting my needs. Then you could find another therapist, or you could find something else that works for you. You know, some people may not do therapy, but they do meditation, or, you know, just different things like that. I know that there are therapists that do meditations. So you could find different stuff. I definitely say do it. I mean, do it, because I feel like as African Americans, we grow up sometimes feeling like mental health is not a good thing, or that, oh girl, you be all right, you know, kind of suppressing that. So I feel like as an African American woman, an African American young woman, I really feel like that to someone that is hesitant about therapy, just do it, just try it. I mean, it's not, you can't lose nothing than what you already lost, to be honest.
Don't be afraid to find healing. Therapy is a space to heal. It is not a space to be afraid. I know that unfortunately in our community, we're so used to chop it up as a woman, Black, African American woman, put on your cape and keep moving, keep going. But if you start to begin to feel that something isn't right, there's spaces in your life that, you know, you're starting to see, maybe you're crying a little more, or you're a little anxious a little more, or even on edge, angry, quick to anger, quick to irritability. I would encourage you to say, you know what, right now is the time for you to ask the questions, because it's a journey. It's not, you know, what we say is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So I would definitely tell you to hopefully be able to set those fears aside and tell fear, hey, it's time for us to heal. It's time for us to find happiness. It's time for us to find that inner joy that I know or I hope exists. So I would just tell you, just, you know, take it one day at a time, but definitely start the journey. It's phenomenal.
While I was, you know, in the helping profession, I could not be the best helping professional that I could possibly be if I do not tend to my own stuff. You know, because I can't give to somebody else what I can't give to myself first. The same way you go to the doctor at least once a year to get a physical. Even if you think you're perfectly okay, you go get screened. Mental health should be the same thing. Even if you think you A-okay, go talk to somebody. You don't wait until it's a problem to address it. Mental wellness is something that can always be built upon, because it's your wellness. You can always improve it. There's no cap. I think what jumps out immediately is that you're weak. That if you go to a therapist or that you need therapy, that you're weak. I think it has a lot to do with the way that we're socialized, though. We're socialized at a very, early age that the only emotion that's okay to express is anger. I work as a school psychologist in the schools. I see black boys all day. When I say all day, because a lot of times they have the behavioral issues. Not that they're not smart, not that they cannot control their behavior, but when it comes to expressing their emotions, which we're all human, so we all have a range of emotions: anger, sadness, happiness. It's no emotion is exclusive to men. It's like, just like women go through these things or experience certain emotions, so do we. But what's expressed most of the time is anger. So a lot of it is internalized. And you see it usually expressed in like maladjusted ways, in relationships, relationally.
Therapy is not a personal failure, a sign of weakness, or a lack of faith. According to Mental Health of America, 16% of Black Americans reported having a diagnosable mental illness in the past year, and Black Americans are 20% more likely to report psychological distress than their white counterparts. In the current racial climate, now is the time more than ever to take care and focus on our mental health. Reach out to a family member, friend, significant other, spiritual leader, teacher, or a doctor. Help is available, just ask. Hi, I am Camila Thomas, licensed clinical social work supervisor and owner of KBT Counseling and Consulting. We are invested in the hope and healing of serving Black families and pride ourselves in being able to provide quality, culturally sensitive,
therapeutic services in a safe, unbiased, and non-judgmental space for you to come in and work through some of life's most difficult challenges in order for you to be your best self.
Black mental health matters.
Black mental health does matter.
Black mental health matters.
Black mental health matters.
Black mental health matters.
Black mental health matters.
Black mental health matters, and we are here to serve you.